While the shows of the DC animated universe are widely praised for their adaptations of existing comic book characters, the creative teams also came up with some significant original characters of their own. Batman the Animated Series was responsible for the creation of characters like Harley Quinn, Renee Montoya, and the Condiment King. When the creative team moved over to working on Superman the Animated Series, they carried on in this tradition, inventing new characters including, but not limited to, Livewire, Volcana, and Angela Chen. The subject of today's video is another original creation, one that has the distinction of making the jump to the mainline comic books within a few years of her debut. We're going to talk about Lex Luthor's right-hand woman, Mercy Graves. Mercy primarily acts as Lex Luthor's muscle. She is his chauffeur and bodyguard, and follows him pretty much anywhere and everywhere he goes. One of the things I quite like about her design, and this is something very common with Bruce Timm designed characters, is how streamlined her look is. She wears a dark grey driver's uniform, but with a short skirt and some sheer tights, giving her a little bit of sex appeal. Sort of like one of those henchwomen that James Bond villains had. I'm certain that this similarity was intentional, given how much the creative team loved James Bond movies, even going as far as basing their Lex Luthor on Telly Savalas, who played Bond's arch-enemy Blofeld in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. As an aside, they also cast that James Bond, George Lazenby, as the villainous King in Batman Beyond. And I like how they've given her a kind of punnish Bond girl name, Mercy as in acts of kindness or compassion, Graves, the place where dead bodies are left. It implies that she offers the kindness of a swift death to any that face her. This is completely apt, as Mercy is a tremendous fighter. Not much is disclosed about her backstory. At one point she tells Superman that she is loyal to Lex because she was living as an orphan on the streets before Luthor found her and gave her life meaning. This may seem like Luthor was being very charitable, but we all know that Lex Luthor only acts in his own best interests. Rather than wanting to help a young woman out of poverty, he instead saw her as a potential tool, someone he could mould, someone he could control. And he was right. Mercy mostly has a background role, always in close proximity to Luthor, protecting him from any and all threats. For instance, she found herself getting into a fistfight with Harley Quinn, while Lex Luthor and the Joker settled a disagreement. Mercy is very protective of Luthor, and not just from physical threats as we see in the episode My Girl. The story revolves around Lex Luthor dating world-renowned fashion designer Lana Lang, who just so happens to be Superman's high school sweetheart. While Lana enjoys Luthor's company, she offers to spy on him for her true love, Superman, to help take him down. Mercy, who was incredibly jealous of this relationship, does some spying of her own and informs Luthor of Lana's treachery. Mercy is very proud of herself for exposing Lana, but didn't take into consideration that it might hurt Luthor's feelings. In response to his feelings of betrayal, Luthor arranges for Lana to be murdered, and would have succeeded if not for Superman. Mercy's relationship with Lex seems to be pretty one-sided, except for when Luthor wants to manipulate her. A great example of this is in the episode Ghost in the Machine. We see that Mercy lays on the charm pretty thick before Luthor's demonstration of his new anti-missile tech, and Luthor drinks in her attention as she hangs off his arm like some sort of accessory. After the presentation goes wrong, Luthor throws a tantrum in front of Mercy and doesn't want her around him. I find it interesting that Luthor, someone who presents himself as cool and calm in the face of adversity, lets his guard down in front of Mercy, indicating some degree of comfort with her. When Luthor decides to investigate the failed presentation personally, he discovers that it was sabotaged by Brainiac in order to lure Luthor into building a new body for him. To evade suspicion, while Luthor toils away in the basement, Brainiac creates an artificial version of Luthor, which barks at Mercy that he is not to be disturbed. And Mercy follows his orders blindly. It's also noteworthy that she doesn't question this hostility from the artificial Luthor. She had even been willing to kick Clark Kent's head in, which wouldn't have been good publicity for Lexcorp, all because Luthor had ordered her not to let anyone in. Once Mercy realizes that something is wrong, she drops everything for Luthor, and even tolerates Superman's presence, because it means she'll be more likely to find the missing Luthor. When Superman and Mercy find Luthor and free him from Brainiac, Luthor shows his true feelings for Mercy when he leaves her to die, trapped under rubble. You can see for a split second he thinks about going back for her, but very quickly decides that he doesn't want to risk his own life. And the look of betrayal on Mercy's face is crushing. Of course, Superman saves her, perhaps Luthor was counting on that, and she goes back to protecting Luthor, who acts like nothing had happened and firmly orders Mercy to continue in her duties. And Mercy goes back to him with her tail between her legs. While Mercy can be seen in the background of most other episodes featuring Lex Luthor, she seems to have gotten over being abandoned by him. Note that she shows a lot of concern for him in Part 3 of World's Finest when he's kidnapped by the Joker. She even tells Superman exactly what's going on, presumably because she knows he's the only person that could save him now. Mercy takes on a much more significant role during Justice League. In the episode Injustice for All, the Justice League finally get enough evidence against Luthor to secure a conviction, and were able to capture him after he had a seizure brought on by kryptonite poisoning. When Luthor was arrested, he passed control of Lexcorp to Mercy, presumably because he viewed her as a controllable figure, someone that would do what he said and when he said it. And to a certain extent he was right, at least that's what Mercy thinks. When Luthor escaped from prison during the episode Tabula Rasa, Mercy covered for him when he escaped from prison and didn't directly cooperate with the Justice League. She helped him track down Professor Ivo and gave him space to work out of with Ivo's android, Amazo. Lex attributes Mercy's compliance with his orders as a sign of her attraction to him. She needs him more than he needs her. Completely sidestepping the fact that he had his hands around her throat. He may be right, but Mercy knows he's no good for her. When Lex ended up getting caught and sent back to prison, he used his one phone call to contact her to arrange for his lawyers to get him out. This time she hung up on him, indicating that she was done being his assistant. Now she had the keys to the kingdom, she was her own woman, and things could be different. At least, that's what we thought might happen. For all the personal growth we see here, it was completely undone after Luthor helped to defeat the Justice Lords and was pardoned. Luthor returned to running Lexcorp, but he didn't relegate Mercy to her old role as his driver. She seemed to be more like his second in command, possibly a vice president, reporting to Lex that there had been an issue in his new city. Mercy is one of the DC animated original characters that made her way to the mainline comic books. She first appeared in 1999's Detective Comics 735, only a few years after her animated debut, working for Lex Luthor, who had staked a claim on the demolished Gotham City. After Lex Luthor was elected president, she became his head of security, and mostly had a background role. Mercy also made an appearance in the early 2000s The Batman cartoon, where she fulfilled basically the same role as her DCAU counterpart, Lex Luthor's right-hand henchwoman, only she was presented as an Asian American woman. When DC's continuity was reset as part of the New 52, the comic book Mercy was also redesigned as an Asian American woman. Note that this is also how she appeared in Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman. And in the recent Lazarus Planet comic book crossover event, when Earth was showered in toxic Lazarus pit waters, she developed superpowers of her own, being able to reshape her limbs into energy blasters, which is convenient. In the most recent comic books, Lex Luthor transferred ownership of Lexcorp to Superman, renaming the company Supercorp, and Mercy runs the company on a daily basis to assist Superman in protecting the planet. So, in summation, out of all of the DCAU original characters, Mercy Graves is arguably one of the more significant. While she didn't have a huge role in Superman the Animated Series, she transitioned to the mainline comic books and other media relatively quickly, and has become synonymous with her boss Lex Luthor. She feels very much like a love letter to classic Bond girl villains, someone that is completely and utterly dedicated to her boss, regardless of how vile he is, or how little regard he has for her. And she is kind of sympathetic. She clearly loves and respects Lex Luthor, but he is incapable of loving anyone or anything but himself. It's genuinely quite sad to see how he toys with her emotions to achieve his goals. She had the chance to become her own woman after Lex Luthor was sent to prison, but ultimately she went running back to him once he got out. She could very well have made a real difference to the world given her position and her tough upbringing. But perhaps she felt safer being in Lex Luthor's shadow. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my current channel members, who are all listed on the screen right now. Next time, I'm going to shine the spotlight on one of the most reviled villains from the new Batman adventures, the gene-splicing Farmer Brown from the episode Critters. Yeah, I know, this is arguably one of the least popular villains, and a lot of people really dislike his episode, but we're going to have some fun talking about the intentions behind this contentious episode. Hope to see you then.